What's up, everyone? Today I'm going to be taking you through my absolute favorite way to strengthen the fretting hand for bar chord shapes. We're going to be using a really popular song, so it's going to make things more engaging. It's also only 5 minutes. If you've followed any of my other videos, you know I'm big on the 5-minute timer or the 7-minute timer or the 10-minute timer, depending on the context, but this really is just 5 minutes in my opinion. And I will say two things. This is really ideal for anyone who's been playing for a year or less, a little bit newer to guitar, newer to bar chords, still strengthening up the hands and everything. However, on top of that, the second piece of that is there are plenty of intermediate players who've been playing for, a decent amount of time who struggle to keep up this position, keep up great tension. With bar chords, you'll be playing in a jam, or an intermediate player will be playing in a jam, or, playing in a band, playing, along with a song where that happens to be the better sound, the sound they're looking for, whatever. And all of a sudden after one song or, 5-10 minutes, it's like, I'm going to go back to these open chords because it's a little more gentle on my fretting hand. And this would also be a great opportunity to build strength, endurance, capacity, all those things, even if you're an intermediate player and you might be skipping those basics sometimes. So just throwing that out there. It's great for beginners, but there are some intermediates who I think would get some benefit out of this. So really the focus is going to be the E bar chord shape and the A bar chord shape, right? So the open E shape, barring it, the open A shape, barring it, moving it up the neck. As a refresher, for example, on the E shape, I'm playing this open and I'm using my middle ring and index finger to actually create the E chord. Now with a bar chord, I'm just basically taking my index finger, right, and moving this open space up, all right? And now, instead of having the open strings here, for all intents and purposes, they are now on the first fret, okay, instead of 0. And I'm now creating the E shape with my ring, pinky, and middle. And I can move it up and down the neck as I see fit. Right, there are plenty of times where, specifically I'm thinking just off the top of my head, like the D chord sounds a little thin, like if you're playing by yourself. Of course, that's not to say, a gazillion people obviously, play that shape, when they're playing an acoustic set. But if you want a fuller sounding chord, the E and the A shape bar chords will sound a little bit more full. All right, and just to create the reference for the open A shape, and how I usually teach the A shape and ultimately how I play the A shape is just create a tiny little bar. For those of you who are struggling, if you have bigger fingers like mine and you're struggling to create that, that open, E string because maybe your pinky's hitting it, you can just create a small bar, make it a 4-chord shape. That's all good, because as you move it up, I think this stretch is too difficult for majority of people out there. So why not just make it a 4-note shape? Don't even worry about the open E. If you do hit it, usually your ring finger will be touching it softly, so it won't really ring out, and you'll be, it'll be fair game to give it a nice big strum if that's how you like to play. Okay, so let's jump in. I feel like I've been, dangling. It's a song. It's a popular song. The song is Creep, and for those of you who are like, well, I know Creep, I know Radiohead, screw this. Remember, I'm turning this, and we are turning this into an exercise to strengthen your hands, your fretting hands specifically for bar chords. So if you're playing Creep with open chords, that's all well and good. We're going to use it to strengthen our hands, and if you listen to the studio, the studio version, you will notice that there are bar chords being played, all right? There are moments where if you play individual strings, it will sound more like the studio version, especially the E-shaped chords, bar chord shapes, than if you played open shapes, okay? So let's jump in. For those of you who are already familiar, that's great. Give yourself a pat on the back. I'm just going to show us the chords really quick for creep. Creep is G major, so we're going to be playing that up here. All right, starting on the 3rd fret. G major is chord 1, then we go to B major. All right, then we go to C major. Then we go to C minor. We just remove our middle finger. C minor. All right, now we're up here on the 8th fret. You know, our ring and pinky are on the 10th fret. That means we can just transition right into the A shape for the G. So we're just restarting the progression up on the 10th fret for the index, 12th fret for that ring bar, and then we're moving down to the 2nd fret, right? 2nd fret for the index, 4th for the ring fingers. For the B shape, sneak it up, C, and then C minor. So if you just go back and forth, you're getting E shape, A shape. And again, you know, if you play along with a song, it'll be different timing. You can absolutely do that. But if you just put on a metronome and a timer, 5 minutes, you know, you're all good to go. Once you finish that up, move on to all the other songs and solos you want to learn, and you will have just given yourself some valuable time to strengthen up your fretting hand. That is the goal. Get this hand strong in this position. All right, and if you did this for 2-3 weeks, you know, every day for 2 to 3 weeks, you would see a huge difference. It would be night and day, in my opinion. All right, and for those of you who wanted to hang on for 10 minutes, really make it an endurance test, you know, you'd be going to a whole nother level. All right, after 3 weeks, you would have put in multiple hours of bar chords. All right, that's the whole point, is baking in some of these skills. So G major, and what I'm going to jump into is you can strum however you want. Notice that transition from C minor to G is really convenient in both places. All right. The next piece, or not really the next piece, the next addition to this is that if you're really new to bar chords, just let it ring out once, then move up to the B. If you're noticing that there's these kind of broken, muted strings, fix it. Might just need that one stroke with the picking hand, right? You might not be ready to strum this or play with the metronome. That's okay. Adjust this for your specific skill level. We're all at different levels with regard to our, you know, playing capabilities. All right, but that's the drill. The last thing, sorry, I keep jumping into, you know, one more thing. Right, I'm coming up with kind of a random pattern, but if you listen to the studio version, you'll hear those individually plucked notes, and they will line up more clearly with bar chords than if you're doing it with open chords. So if you did want to just focus on the E shape, you know, that might sound a little more authentic to the track. If you want to just focus on the A shape, that's also okay. Whether or not it sounds exactly like the recorded version, you can play around with this to get exactly what you want out of it. You know, I'm a little weaker on the A shape. Oh, I'm a little weaker on the E shape. Then just stick with those. When you need a little, you know, mental break, change to a different, change from E to A or vice versa. If you want another break, change the strumming pattern, right? If you need another break or you need to change things up mentally, go with the individually plucked notes. So there it is. That's, you know, I guess maybe the challenge to you is to hit this, for those of you looking to strengthen up your fretting hand, hit this once a day before you play all your songs and solos that you're learning right now. Once a day for 2 weeks minimum, 3 weeks if you want to be, to use the corniest phrase on earth, if you want to be a rock star, you want to be a superstar, hit it for 3 weeks. You'll feel awesome. You'll feel so much more confident with bar chords. And then you can move on to some other skills because these will be a little bit more baked in. So anyways, if you liked this, like the actual video, that's helpful for me. Subscribe to the channel, also helpful for me. And I want to put more things out here that will be genuinely applicable to guitar players who want to get better. All right, so anyways, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.